There was one house rule almost every parent had, and every kid knew it by heart. You did your chores, ate what was on your plate, and the day was yours. But once you came inside, you stayed inside. That door did not slam twice. These were the rules we were sure applied to every house on the block. Now, they live only in our memories. Today, we are walking back through the summer vacation house rules that shaped growing up, and what made every one of them unforgettable. You still have a bedtime, even if it's light outside. It didn't matter how bright it still was outside, because the clock ran that house, not the sun. You'd be standing in the yard with the sun still up, and other kids still riding their bikes down the street, and your mother would open the door and say one word, your name, and that was the whole announcement. And you'd stand there thinking, but it's still light outside. It didn't matter, because bedtime was never really about the sunlight. It was about tomorrow, and tomorrow had chores in it, and breakfast in it, and things that needed doing, and none of that cared how long the daylight lasted in July. So in you go, past the kids still playing outside, past the fireflies just starting to come out, into a bedroom that somehow still felt hot from the day. And you'd lay there, listening to everybody outside still having fun without you.
Has your mother ever told you, or your nan told you, that you can't go straight into swim after you've been eating? You've got to wait half an hour or maybe an hour.
Wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming. There was one sentence that could ruin a perfectly good pool day faster than anything else, and it was 30 minutes or you'll cramp up and drown. You'd finish lunch and the pool or the lake would be right there, and your mother would say that like she was reading you your rights, and you believed her completely. You'd sit on that towel staring at the water like it owed you money, watching the clock, absolutely convinced that jumping in 1 minute early meant you were going to sink straight to the bottom. Nobody has ever actually proven that theory, but that mother wasn't interested in your science. She had a rule, and the rule was 30 minutes. So there you sat with wet hair from your last swim and a dry towel underneath you, watching every other kid who apparently had a mother who didn't believe in the 30-minute rule.
True or false? After eating, a person should wait 30 minutes before going into the water and swimming.
True, that's what my mom always said.
True. I've always been taught you have to wait at least 30 minutes after you eat, before or after you eat.
I disagree, it's false.
Nah, I was a swimmer for years, that's false.
Question is, should you wait 30 minutes after eating before going swimming?
Don't ask for food at other people's houses. You could be starving at somebody else's house and still never say a word about it, because that rule was bigger than your appetite. You'd stand in your friend's kitchen while their mother made lunch for everybody else, and you would say absolutely nothing. You'd just stand there politely, hungry, in silence, because you knew somewhere deep down that if you asked for a snack at somebody else's house and your mother found out, that wasn't just embarrassing, that was a reputation problem, and it followed you around. That rule was never really about the food. It was about pride, about not looking like your family couldn't feed you, and every kid understood that assignment without a single word of explanation. So you'd go home, walk straight to the refrigerator, and eat like you hadn't seen food in a week. Don't air family business outside the house. Whatever happened inside that house was never anybody else's business, and every kid learned that the hard way, usually only once. Whatever it was, an argument, a money worry, anything, it stayed inside those walls. You didn't tell the neighbor kids, you didn't tell your teacher, and you definitely didn't tell your friend's mother, who always seemed a little too interested in your business anyway. Somehow every kid on the block understood this rule without a manual. You'd watch a friend get asked something too personal at school and see them shut it down instantly. Polite but closed. Trained. And that training came straight from home. It made you loyal. And it made you careful. And honestly, it made you somebody people could trust with a secret for the rest of your life. If you want allowance or rides, then you helped with housework. Nothing in that house was ever free. And every kid learned that lesson through a chore list long before anybody used the word budget. You wanted a ride to your friend's house? Dishes first. You wanted allowance for the movies? The lawn wasn't going to mow itself. This was the original terms and conditions, and nobody ever read the fine print. but everybody knew it by heart. You don't work, you don't get the extras. And here's the part that's funny looking back. We complained about it constantly, griped the whole time we were vacuuming, dragged our feet taking out the trash. But every single one of us grew up knowing how to work for something instead of just expecting it to show up. That wasn't a punishment. It was one of the most valuable things that house ever taught us. And it took most of us until we were grown to realize it. Go play if you're bored. If you ever made the mistake of saying you were bored, you were about to get an answer you didn't actually want. Then go outside and play. That was the response. Every single time. No suggestions, no planning, no, let me entertain you. Just go, figure it out, find some kids, find a stick, find a ball, find something, and don't come back until dinner. And somehow, we always did. We built entire worlds out of nothing. A cardboard box became a spaceship, a driveway became a stadium, and boredom wasn't a problem that needed solving for us. It was just the starting point of the whole day. Answer the phone properly and politely. There was a right way to answer that phone, and if you got it wrong, everybody in the room knew it instantly. Hello, the Johnson residence, this is Susan speaking. That was the standard, and there was no getting around it. Not yeah, not what. You answered that phone like you were representing the entire family, because as far as your mother was concerned, you were. And if you got it wrong, if you just picked up and said yeah, you'd get a look from across the room that could strip the paint off a wall. You didn't need to be told twice. That phone wasn't just a phone. It was your very first lesson in first impressions. And you learned it before you were even old enough to understand what a first impression really was. Because I said so. There was one answer that ended every single argument before it even really started. And it only took 4 words. You'd ask why you had to do something, why the rule even existed. And you get those 4 words back like a closed door. Because I said so. As a kid, that answer felt so unfair, so final, like there was no arguing with it and no negotiating around it. Just the end of a conversation before the conversation even had a chance to start. Sometimes there isn't a 5-minute explanation that makes sense to a 9-year-old. Sometimes there's just trust. And because I said so was really just a shorter way of saying, trust me on this one. No phone calls after 9 p.m. The moment that clock hit 9, that phone might as well have not existed anymore. By 9 o'clock, that phone was off limits, and everybody in the house knew it, including whichever friend of yours found out the hard way. If that phone rang after 9, somebody was answering it with an attitude, and it wasn't a friendly one. Because a phone call after 9 either meant bad news, or it meant some kid was about to get in trouble for calling too late. There was something almost sacred about that cutoff. 9 o'clock meant the day was closing up, and whatever it was could wait until morning. If you're bored, you can clean your room. If you thought saying you were bored was going to get you sympathy, you were about to learn a very important lesson. You'd say, I'm bored, hoping for sympathy, hoping for an idea, hoping for anything. And instead you'd hear, good, your room could use it. That sentence taught more kids to stop complaining out loud than any lecture ever could. You learned real quick that the moment you said the word bored in that house, you were rolling the dice on whether you were about to go play or about to be handed a vacuum. Kids should be seen and not heard around adults. You could sit in the room with the adults, but that didn't mean you got to be part of the conversation. When the adults were talking, really talking, at the kitchen table or out on the porch or wherever the grown-up conversation was happening, kids didn't jump in. You could listen, but that conversation wasn't for you, and you knew better than to insert yourself into it. It wasn't cruel. It was just how things worked. Adults had adult conversations, and kids had their own world to run around in. And there was something almost peaceful about that, looking back. You got to just sit there quietly, watching the grown-ups laugh about something you didn't fully understand yet. And somehow, that was enough. If you get in trouble with neighbors or school, you're in double trouble at home. One phone call from a neighbor or a teacher was all it took to put you in trouble twice over. This was the rule that hung over your head every single time you left that house. It didn't matter who was actually right. It didn't matter what really happened or whose fault it truly was. If a neighbor called, or a teacher called, or any phone call came in about something you did, you weren't just in trouble with them. You were in double trouble at home. And somehow, that fear kept more kids in line than any punishment ever could have on its own. You thought twice. You thought 3 times. Because you knew that whatever happened outside those walls was about to follow you right back through that screen door. None of these summer vacation house rules came with a manual. Because in a home like that, meetings were never needed to explain how things worked. It was just a house, and the people in it, and a way of doing things that got passed down without anybody ever officially teaching it. And looking back now, we didn't always understand why at the time. We just knew the rules, and we followed them. And somehow, we turned out all right. Maybe even better than all right. So tell me, which one of these did I just describe from your own childhood summer? Was it the phone, the bedtime, or that 30-minute swim rule that felt like it lasted 3 hours? Put it in the comments, because I want to hear your version of these rules. Since I promise you, every house had its own little twist on every single one of them. And if this took you back for a little while today, that's exactly what it's here for. So stick around, because there's a lot more of these memories still to come.